Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to the FordTechMakuloco channel. Real quick today, I want to show you this 2014 Ford Expedition that's here in the shop. This truck has been through the mill. So a little backstory in the vehicle. It has about 112,000 miles on it. It's young in my eyes. Barely broken in. And it had a tapping noise, ticking tapping noise. And another shop he had worked on said it was the roller followers and latch adjusters. Completely agree. Because they're a common failure point, especially 09 and newer. So he said, okay, well, you guys got to do that. You got to pull all stuff apart. It's a lot of labor just to get in there and change those. How about you guys just do a full timing set and change the latch adjusters and followers while you're in there? We'll do it that way, you know, okay. Yeah, so the guy said, I'm going to provide my own parts. He went ahead and gave him a melting water pump and then a melting high volume oil pump. Great. And then he gave them a melting timing kit, which I don't really agree with. I don't like the quality of the parts. But the only thing to know about that melting timing kit is that the one he bought, he upgraded and bought on purpose because it had cast iron tensioners to it. And you'll see over here, that's not what they put in. So then he brought it to, it never ran right after that, basically. So before, his only concern was the ticking and tapping noise from the valve train, which is why he brought it to them in the first place. That's the only concern. When he got it back within a few weeks, I was having issues where it could not keep oil pressure, especially hot, and it would cause, erratic VCT operation, phasor oscillation, all that stuff. So he said, I'm done with that shop, and he brought it here to get a diagnosis to see what is going on. So long story short, man, they did one heck of a job on this vehicle and actually ruined his engine. So hopefully you can get some kind of money back from them or help with a new engine or whatever. I said I could put in a Ford reman engine, but it's expensive. It's over 10 grand nowadays with parts and labor and all the hoses and manifolds and all the stuff I change on there. So that's the way I do it. I do it right, one time only. So he's going to take it and have some other shop put in a junkyard engineer, junk the vehicle, whatever, I don't know. Before he does that, though, and before I put it back together, I want to show you exactly what I found. It's pretty crazy. Okay, before we get into the engine side, I want to go over here to the parts carts and show you a few things that I found and then do some comparisons between the Ford stuff and the aftermarket stuff on there. The very first thing I want to show you, though, is the oil pan on here. So if you look at an oil pan here, and I'll zoom in so we get some better detail, you can see there's some sizable chunks of metal, and when I pulled some out with my finger, it almost looked like sand, which is kind of crazy. Fine metal in here like this, the fine aluminum like that, I see that enough in the 543 valves, but when I do see that, they've been neglected, tensioners blown, chains flopping around, broke the guide, and it's starting to work on the cover. As you can see here, this is the exact path it takes. It sags here, chain sags, and then it pulls tight and flops around and rubs right here. So you can see right here, very small little mark. Maybe something down here, maybe right there. When these are going for a long time and they're flapping and they're blown, they'll wear into the front cover and there'll be major grooves, and sometimes they'll groove way into right here, these reinforcements right here. I mean, way into them. I'm talking 3/8 of an inch into it. And that's where the metal would fall and go right into the pan. So if I see something like that and I see the metal in the pan, I know it fell directly in the pan. Generally, everything's okay, believe it or not. As you can see, that process barely started here. So where's all this metal coming from, honestly? Yeah, that's a little worrisome. The other indicator of that is on the trigger wheel. So the trigger wheel is just like this, right? It goes here and it bolts on to the nose of the crankshaft and the dampener and everything kind of just squeezes it together. So that chain's riding. So on the back side here, it'll start wearing into it, kind of like you see right there, but it'll be way worse. It'll be all chewed up on the back side of this trigger wheel when the chain is failing and starting to wear into components on here. Didn't see any of that stuff. So that's worrisome. Why is there so much metal? Well, we're gonna find out here in a second. So going over here, again, we don't see any real reason why there is that much metal. I don't like the quality of the work they did. You can see the gasket surfaces were not cleaned very well. all this stuff would be cleaned off of there and beautiful 2,000 miles later, like after I do a timing job, for instance. Tensioner gasket sealing surfaces, they'd be clean, not oil stained like that. Just stuff like that. So that right there already tells you a little bit about the work they did. Now, as far as oil changes, the guy honestly took care of oil changes. This looks beautiful inside of here, so it's a real shame that all this happened to this engine. But if you start looking at different areas, like right here, you can see that right there, the gasket surface. There's certain areas to take a whizzer wheel to, and they start grinding into it. Right there, there. So all that metal, if they weren't careful, will go right into the engine, that grit and everything else. Here's the other thing I found, the dampener. So the dampener has this big bolt on it, and it's torque to yield and all that good stuff. But the thing I'm trying to say is that this bolt has a real high torque rating, okay? So when this bolt went in there and was torqued down properly, it'd be really hard to get it off of there. You have a big old half-inch drive impact, and it would finally come off. This one, zing, came right off, which means they didn't even tighten, let alone torque this down. When that happened, this dampener was not pressing against the actual sprocket down here, which again, look at this aftermarket one right here. Look at the quality of that compared to an old Ford one. Wow. Much better quality. That's the first thing I'm gonna say. But that dampener comes down, gets bolted and torqued down and presses hard against this, against the nose of the crankshaft and this little timing gear down here. Well, they didn't tighten it, so guess what? Check this out right here. Hopefully you can see this. Let me get you in here. You see this right here? So here is the nose of the crankshaft. Here's where that timing gear sits. And here's where the dampener is pressed on. Probably up to this point right here, okay? Because this point on, it's like a conical shaped dampener. So the very end of it's actually pressed onto there. That's why you see the marks. But right here, more importantly, is where that gear sits. And it sits in a keyway right here. But the only way it stays from vibrating around on there, it's not a press fit or anything, it just slides on. The only way it keeps from vibrating around and ruining the crankshaft is by the dampener coming on, pressing on, and squeezing in between the dampener and right here. You can tell right here, look at that, the whole thing is hammered like crazy right here, especially right here. You can see the hammering effect because it was loose on there. Look at that. So there's a lot of different things they did to this engine that worries me. So let's go over to the parts here. So again, he used a Melling timing chain kit. I don't like their parts. I think they're very cheap. The guides, the tensioner arms, everything. But the biggest thing I don't like about them is the chains they use, okay? So the chains they use, this is the kind of chain they use. Chloe's is the same way. Now look at this chain. Look at it from the top side here. I'm gonna get you in and get you some detail. Look at the top edge of it here. Now you put your finger over it, it's very lumpy. It's very lumpy as it goes around. This is a Ford chain. Pretty darn smooth. Not perfect because it's going around a circle here. Very smooth. Just side profile there. It's very hard to show, but you see how lumpy it looks on here? It feels as lumpy as it looks. And this feels as smooth as it looks. So that's the difference there. I don't like it because it seems to wear into the plastic guides more. It's not as smooth when it's going down them, as tension. So this has 2,000 miles on it, and you can start to see the wear in there already. And maybe this one will show it better. Some of it right here. Here we go. You see that grooving in there? That's from the rough back. That's pretty crazy for 2,000 miles. Yeah, that's why I don't like these aftermarket kits. So the other thing I'll talk about the aftermarket kit is that, again, he bought cast iron tensioners, which look, actually I have a pair over here. Well, these, I use the Ford one. I use the milling ones. This is the Ford one. I got these sitting here for a video. So this is how it looks. So it's a cast iron tensioner with ratcheting teeth, lockout right here. And you can use these on the 3 valves, and Ford and even like Melling and aftermarket offer them. So he wanted them, he felt they were more reliable. Okay. Well, he bought them, and this is what he ends up with on there. The old plastic ones, the old style plastic ones, they have been replaced. You can tell by the gasket here. So they did replace them. But the other thing is this right here. So this is the other side of the engine here. So this is the side that actually sags on the right-hand side. So this is the bank one, okay? So you look at this. If I can squeeze it. Check this out. So this is the old one. Gasket's fine, all that good stuff. It has a really strong spring in there to keep tension when the engine's off, right? Moves just fine. Everything's gravy. Look at this one right here. Cannot get this one to move. Moves just a little bit, does not go in all the way. So in other words, if I were to use this clip right here, this clip goes into, it goes right here and then locks in here, this clip right here. That's how they come. Once it's timed, pop the clip, tension's fully out. I cannot get this one back, even with all my weight, to do that. Whereas this one, I can do it no problem. Look at this. One little finger on there. You see a difference? Now, the other thing I want to talk about, because I'm trying to give a lot of information to you guys, is these aftermarket timing chains. These timing chains with this weirdo profile. See that? That is so weird to me. I hate seeing those. That's Ford. That's aftermarket. These chains, I don't know who makes them for Chloe's and Melling, but recently, at least the last 2 years, these have been known to break a lot. That's bad because it's an interference engine. I wonder if these cheap inferior tensioners they're including in their kits that are coming fully out, putting extra stress on those chains and never actually relieving them, which was kind of a failure, kind of a design flaw of the ratcheting ones. I wonder if they're coming out, they're locking solid. When this first came out, I couldn't even move this at all. It was rock solid. I lean on it, rock solid. Now it's starting to move with this a little bit. I wonder if them fully tensioning out and locking, getting hard, wedged, whatever, is actually what's causing these chains to break. You got to think about all this stuff when you go to buy a timing kit and go in there and do this. Not only is it a lot of work, but if it breaks, it's an interference engine. It means the valves will kiss the pistons and you will ruin the engine. Another thing I noticed, that this gasket on here is way too flattened for 2,000 miles. They never changed it. The O-ring for the pump when they changed it, which is messed up because when you replace the pump, it comes with it. It's from Melling. Another thing I want to talk about, so these cam caps are set in order, okay? So here's a thrust cap with a thrust washer right here, and that keeps it from fore and aft movement, right? Kind of locates it. That one's hard to mess up. It's one, there's no other one like it. But the rest of these cam caps, they all look the same. See this? Look at it. They all look exactly the same. What's worse is on the newer vehicles, I would say 09 and newer, there's no stamping in them indicating which number they are in order. See, it's totally gone. There's no stamping telling you which order these go in. So the way it looks on this guy's vehicle also is that they pulled them all off, threw them in a pile, okay? And then they just bolted them back on later on, wherever they wanted, okay? And they didn't know where they went. Now the problem with that is is that these cam caps are full height, full size inside, right? They're bigger than they should be, let's just say. I don't know how to say it. They're bigger than they should be from the factory when they make these heads. So when they make the heads, they take all these caps that are rough cut, let's just say. They're rough cut and they bolt them on to the head without the camshaft, okay? So they'll go over, when they're building this head, they'll take these rough casting caps, okay? You see that? They'll bolt them on there, they'll torque them down, okay? And then they'll take a machine and they'll align bore through all of them all at once in their respective positions. They'll align bore them to spec, whatever that inside diameter should be, based on the oil clearance, based on the standard spec of the camshaft journal on there, okay? So you cannot mix these up because they were aligned bored as part of the head. That's why you cannot buy cam caps, because they are a machined part of the head. You cannot mix them up on the same head. You cannot swap them from head to head. They are machined as they are bolted in place. Okay, and there's no bearings on these. So that is the bearing. That's the finished clearance on there, is when it align bores it. So what I think they did is they pulled them all off and they just put them back down there wherever, because all of these are the same. And that cut into the camshaft, and more importantly, it cut into the actual cap. If you look at it on here, and I've seen a lot of these, it's really worn inside of here. Let's see if I can get a better view. It's really worn on the inside here. And not only that, I saw some evidence of burning inside of there. So these all look like they've been recently machined because they were put on in the wrong place and they were cut into by the harder camshaft. So the camshaft's harder than the aluminum here. So it actually wore into it. I think that's where a lot of this oil pressure loss is coming from. I did a lot of bad stuff. So with all this stuff floating around from them wizard wheeling the covers and the heads and putting these on the wrong spots and not being clean about it in general, they put a lot of stuff down into the pan that gets moved around in there. And this is what happened to the brand new oil pump. So for comparison here, here's an old 543 valve oil pump. Probably 150,000 miles on it, okay? Now look at it inside of here. Notice the wear right here, barely any, right? Here. Looks beautiful, right? Machine surface. The wear right here in the face, not so bad. Okay, back plate, pretty standard for 150,000 miles, still smooth. And then the gears themselves, pretty standard. No real flaws here, definitely not out of spec. By comparison, look at this Melling oil pump that has 2,000 miles on it. Look at the grooving in there. Look at the big chunk taken out right there. It's decent grooves right here, nothing to cry about. And then over here too. See it? Look at all that grooving in there already. Good amount of wash on this backing plate. If you look at it, nothing too bad yet, but for 2,000 miles, seems excessive. Same thing, the amount of wear on these gears looks excessive for 2,000 miles. So that's from all the actual metal coming through. So when all that fine metal comes up and through here, it goes through a strainer only on the end here. Let me see if I can get it out of here without causing a catastrophe. It goes through a large holed strainer. It's not going to catch much, right? Because after the pump, it's going into the filter. Well, so the pump here is going to take the brunt of it, of all that debris coming through. So they ruined his new pump too, which was an upgraded hard anodized pump, which is even more expensive than the other ones. So yeah, I mean, I don't know what else to say about this besides it's sad to see this kind of work being done out there Hopefully they give him a great deal on it, because now he's in a real pickle. And they're gonna have to replace this engine. Like I said, it has oil pressure issues, hot, when everything can bleed past all these clearances on here much faster. And the old trick is to use, if you don't know it already, if you have gone through and you've done a proper timing job, everything's clean, pan's clean, pickup's clean, replace with the latest roller followers that have a smaller hole in them. If you look at them on here, if I can get one out of here, they have a smaller oiling hole on them. I know I'm focusing here. So you look at it, there's a small oiling hole on there. It's about this, you can't even see it. Yeah, you kind of see it right there. See it? It's about the size of a pin prick tip there. A little pin. Okay? And this thing will not focus. Sorry, guys. There we go. So with those all being smaller, the amount of oil that's flowing out the follower and spraying onto the cam lobe is less, because the hole is smaller and it's a higher pressure. But it increases the back pressure in the oil log built into the head, which adds to the reserve for proper VCT function. So if you've done a proper timing job, including sealing up your tensioners, which are probably blown out, new followers that increase the back pressure in the oil log, high volume oil pump down there, clean pickup, clean pan, you're running 5W30, and you still have phaser oscillation afterwards, hot only, where once the diet stop signs and all that stuff. The old trick is to use a heavier oil. In this case, I recommend Rotella T6 5W40 full synthetic. So in this case, before I even pulled it apart to see this catastrophe, I went ahead and I put this oil in there, because it's a good test to do. It doesn't take very long. And they'll tell you if it's going to fix the clearance issues, which on this one, they're unfortunately way too far gone. That's it for now. I just wanted to bring you guys along on this. Some of the stuff I see in the shop here just blows your mind. This engine should not be like this at 112,000 miles, 543 valve or not. And I want to show you how bad it can get real quick if you choose the wrong shop. Enough yakking for now. See you guys next time.